Welcome to the Draw Club podcast with myself, Zane Scotland. This is episode 4. This week I'm talking to you from TPC Sawgrass. Well, actually, as you can see, the Marriott at TPC Sawgrass. I was lucky enough to be here for the weekend to watch some of the best players in the world tackle the stadium course, which is a fine track, and I'm going to give you my insights and just chat to you about that. The episode is essentially going to be talking about the Player Championship. Then the second section will be some insights and just some things that can help you with your game, maybe things I'm working on in my game and things I'm seeing while coaching. And then the third section is going to be answering some of the questions that you've been so kind enough to send in, some topics and questions to discuss there. So I'll try and get to as many of those as I can. But we're going to start with the PGA Tour. So the PGA Tour this week was at TPC Sawgrass, the Players Championship. Anyone that follows the game knows that this is one of the best tournaments on the schedule outside of the majors and the Ryder Cup. The Players is right up there. The PGA Tour have kind of banded around this being the 5th major, probably because they don't own any of the majors and they feel like they want some of that real estate. But it's not a major. That being said, there is something about a golf tournament that is played at the same course every year. Other notables, the PGA at Wentworth, the Dubai Desert Classic, the Amiga Masters, the LA Open at Riviera, the AT&T at Pebble Beach, and the tournament, the Masters at Augusta. Now, all those tournaments, because there's been that history, because there's been that repeat business, that gives us the treat of watching iconic moments. And I've watched golf for, it seems like forever and a day, and I can kind of recite and tell you about a great shot by a great player that went on to win. And that's what you get here at the Players. With Ricky Fowler stuffing it in there close, Craig Perks chipping in a bunch of times down the last few holes, Greg Norman with a record score. Tiger's won here, Rory's won recently, Scotty Scheffler won here last year. This year it was won by Cameron Young. Is this Cameron Young showing up? He's been a colossal talent for quite some time, but maybe underachieved, maybe not won as much as we think he should win, knowing how good his game is. And he just stood up last weekend and he showed everybody what he's really about and played some unbelievable shots down the stretch. He birdied 17. They made a great par on 16. Birdied 17, the iconic 17th island green, tucked right-hand pin. Hadn't birdied the 16th hole, which is the birdie chance for these guys. Gets to 17, and then to a scary pin out on the right-hand side, stuffs it in close, makes his birdie, walks the 18th tee. The 18th is one of the scariest tee shots in golf. The fairway circumferences the whole lake that's on the left-hand side. Anywhere, if it just turns a bit too much, bounce into the water. If you guard against that, leak it a little bit right or hit it a bit too far, it goes through the fairway, into the trees, into the pine straw, which if you have got a swing, you're then having to send the ball out left over the water and cut it back. Again, anything that's straight ends back up in the water. So it's even hard to chip out on that hole, to be honest with you, because all the fairway from the right-hand side runs down across the hole into the water. And he stepped up there and he hit what I think it was possibly the best drive I've ever seen. He hit 365 yards. Okay, a bit down breeze, high draw around the water, miles down the right half of the fairway, and ended up bringing what's quite a tough, longish hole completely to its knees. I mean, that thing's like 480, and he's going in there with sand wedge for his second shot to a back pin. Still, it was a tricky shot, but it's a much trickier shot when you're standing over a 6-iron back down the fairway as opposed to a sand wedge, which you can spin. And that was good enough to go ahead and win. He was playing against Matt Fitzpatrick. Matt hit what looked like a really nice tee shot on the 18th, just too far, rolled through into the trees, knocks it up there, gets it on the green, misses a short putt. But that is really easily done. Matt, in no way threw this tournament away. That is easily done for someone who's haven't played some of their best golf. I think the one person you could say let everyone back in and throwing it away is kind of harsh, is Ludwig Ober, which I really didn't see coming. He had full control of this tournament for at least 2.5 days, leading into the back nine on Sunday. Ludwig is a colossal talent, the big strapping Swede. He hits the ball a long way, seems cool as a cucumber. Doesn't seem to give much away when things go wrong, but it did all catch up with him. He hit, I think he was 2 or 3 ahead, hit a great tee shot on the 11th hole, which is a par 5. It's into the breeze. Earlier that day, I'd watched Brooks Koepka hit a good tee shot and have about 270 in. Ludwig had hit it a little bit past where Brooks was. It's a back pin. And you know what? Sometimes you see players, they come a cropper because they have the ability to hit shots that other players don't. And Rory has this issue sometimes. Because he can take on that shot, because he can hit that shot, he then feels obliged to play it. Whereas most players don't have that in their armoury, so then don't necessarily take on the Hollywood shot. So, for instance, the 11th hole at the par 5, pin was right at the back. There's sand and water down the right-hand side. The real shot there, the bailout, is short left, pitch up the green. It's quite a relatively straightforward pitch if you're getting a good lie. But he's Ludwig Ober. He can hit a high towering 3-wood, pitch it right back there and have possibly have a putt for eagle. So he's going to go for it. He did that. He may have caught it a little bit out the heel or something. There was a gust of wind. It starts up right inside the green, starts fading. The wind takes it. Fade, fade, fade. Middle of the drink. Boom. Now there's panic stations. Dropped a shot there. Walks to 12. And same thing again. Exactly the same thing again. He's got 370 yards. He's probably got 350 to the front on a par 4. It's a little bit down breeze. He's got about 370 odd to the pin. Rory earlier that day had hit the ball to 10 feet with his tee shot. And it's, again, water down the left. There's a bunker. There's trees right. It's awkward if you do block it. You don't want to block it, go in the tree. That's done. And, for most players, if they can't reach, they would hit a 3-wood or a 3-iron down the right-hand side into the fairway and pitch it on with a wedge. But, again, he's Ludwig. He can hit the ball. He can drive this green. Stands up, goes after it with his driver, possibly towed it a little bit. The gear effect kicks in. Thing just hooks middle of the water. So he's gone water ball on 11, water ball on 12, bang. And that was kind of the end of his tournament, really. That was him run and then let everybody else back in. Ended up being Cam Young, who was the one to take advantage of it. And, yeah, fantastic win for the guy. I commentated on him when he played with Cam Smith at the Open Championship at St Andrews, and he pushed Cam Smith all the way to the end there, even eagling the last hole at St Andrews to make Cam Smith make the birdie to get across the line. And yes, he's played Ryder Cup and he's showed a lot of form, but hadn't had the big win. This is the big win, and you think could he be the new kind of star for the Americans? Now, we did see this with Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler won the Players' Championship, and he's obviously had a stellar career, but maybe didn't quite hit the heights that we thought he would. But let's hope there's something a bit more for Cam Young. He's a young guy, hits the ball a long way, seems like a pretty cool character, doesn't seem to get involved in the social media and the media side of things like some of the other players. Not saying that's a bad thing, but just just seems like it's all business with Cam Young, and yeah, he could really, really kick on from here. He's going to contend in some majors, whether it be this year, we'll see. But yeah, congratulations to Cam Young. Fantastic win at the Players' Championship. And importantly now, probably more importantly, I'm getting to play a Pro-Am at TPC Sawgrass. Nah, jokes. It's not more important. But yeah, I'm getting to play. I've actually got to play the stadium course today at TPC from the back tees in quite a strong wind. It was gusting at 25 miles per hour at times, and I can tell you that course is just a beast. If you miss a fairway, so the fairways they're not really small fairways, but they're certainly not big. So you've got let's say you've got 25 yards between 25 to kind of 30 yards of fairway. If you miss them, the lies that you get off the fairways are just, you just happen to hack it out. And then there's these moguls around the green that is like real thick rough, and you get all sorts of terrible lies in there. It is just, you're on it the whole time. The greens are fast, the rough is thick. It's a golf course that really you have to play all the clubs in your bag, move it left to right to left, if you can. And yeah, it's a fantastic challenge, and it's actually a real reminder actually. So we're playing it in a Pro-Am format. The golfers in my team are Matt Chillag, he's a 1 handicap, one of our founders at 5 Iron UAE. My dad plays off of, he's a 9 handicap, and my other pal Ben Curry, he's an 8 handicap. And I was just saying to the guys, like, don't even worry about your score. It's so difficult. With these guys, the best players in the world are here, and some of those guys are shooting in the 80s. Now, this tournament we're playing in has about, there'll be over 100 players, and they played Stableford today, and the best pro score was 34 points, and the best amateur score was 32 points. And I think that just goes to show you how difficult it is. It was really windy, but it just goes to show you. I actually played okay. Actually, I hit the ball great, actually, and I was a couple over, and actually I completely did a Ludwig. I messed up 11 and 12, made a couple of doubles, ended up shooting 6 over par. But you know what? It was a 5.5 hour round. For 4 hours 45 of it, I played some really good golf. Part being that I changed the shaft in my driver. So this is actually a bit of a segue into what I want to chat about next, was about equipment. So I got a new driver recently, and I had a Tensai orange in it, shaft, 9-degree head, and it just does not felt right. So it didn't feel right off the face. Kind of get a bit of a dippy flight, and you just get a club, and it's just real hard work. And every time, the only time I ever hit it well was when I gave it a real rip, which is great, but you don't want to play golf having to stand on every single tee shot. It had no workability at all. And I'm looking at this thing thinking, I hate this driver. Like, this is no good. And then, so I had another couple of shafts. I've got an Acra shaft. So I've had Acra graphite iron shafts put in recently, which I really like. A little bit lighter, a bit easier to get the club back out in front of me, because I feel like when you get a heavy shaft, that thing just lags behind you. So I've got an Acra driver shaft, so I thought a bit of consistency, I'll put that in. And you just like in the first 3 shots, you just know, wow, this is so different. And I was able to launch it up in the air if I needed to, take the ball flight down, and the feel was the main thing. It just feels like a completely different golf club. The Tensai made it feel like really dead and almost clunky, whereas this Acra shaft, the thing just feels like it comes off really quickly, and almost the sound of the drive was different. So yeah, really, really pleased with that. But it shows you. So yesterday when I played, I wasn't even looking forward to hitting the driver. I was trying to reach for my mini driver or my 3-wood whenever I could, just because I wasn't enjoying hitting the driver. And then today, just with a change of shaft, every single opportunity I got to hit my driver, I was getting it out and I was putting it in play. And it just goes to kind of show that the same head with a different shaft felt like a completely different sport. And people often ask me, even 20 handicap, should I get fit? And I don't want to be cliche, but you absolutely should get fit. And I think getting fit for a driver is the single most important part for a golfer, because if you get fit properly, that can completely change your game. Think about it this way. If you get the driver in play, you're going to have a pretty decent day. You haven't got to be in the fairway, but as long as you're not hitting it in the shit, then you're in the hole. The next part is if you can carry the ball 5 to 10 yards further, that will put you a bit closer to the hole, just get you over that bunker that you're trying to fly. If you do miss the fairway, you're 10 yards closer, so now you can get a bit more loft on it. If you hit a great drive down a par 5, it means you can get closer to the green in 2 and possibly make a birdie. And a good fitter can find you 10 yards in having the right shaft. So if you're thinking about, I want to get a new driver, don't buy off the rack, go get fit, because you know what, they're so expensive these days anyway. You should just, whatever it takes, spend that tiny bit more, or even if you just spend a little bit of time, go get fit, and it will really, really change your game. And it's so important, that part of it. The rest of the bag is important. It's obviously important to get fit for shafts all the way through your irons. Weight is a thing to think about. When I pick up people's clubs, one of the things I notice is the weight of the club, which is not, everyone thinks about the flex and the length and the loft and the lie, but get your swing weights. Get a weight that's good for you. Some people like heavy weights, heavy clubs. Some people feel like, it feels like it keeps that momentum. It's a different feel. I feel like you can swing it smooth. Myself, I used to prefer a heavy club, but now I don't play quite as much. I need to get my swing speed up a little bit. I want a bit of a lighter club. The other thing, like I mentioned before, is I feel like a lighter club, I can get the club head out in front of me a bit more. So, for instance, my poor shot is a bit of a pull draw, which means I'm getting a little bit stuck on the inside on the way down. And if I square the face, the ball starts straight and draw to the left. Earlier this year, I was sat with Pete Cowan. We were interviewing Pete Cowan on Dubai Desert Classic, and the question of Scotty Scheffler came up, because obviously Scotty has this crazy footwork. It's not an orthodox swing by any means. And the question was, how does Scotty Scheffler, how is he such a good ball striker? How does he make it work? And Pete made a very good point, which I fully agree with. He said, if you look at Scotty Scheffler, he's moving his body in a certain way that he gets the club back out in front of him. Gets that thing out in front of him, which means he doesn't have a left miss. Now, when people say taking one side of the golf course out of play, that's not strictly the goal. Because if you always hit the ball right, that's also a flaw. If you always hit the ball left, that's also a flaw. A good functioning golf swing, the ball will miss a little bit right or left equally. That means your swing is functioning well. But there's a difference between the ball starting left and moving left, as opposed to the ball starting just left and staying there, or starting left and cutting to the right. That's two different things. And when you get the club head or the club out in front of you, or your arms in front of you on the way down, it's much easier to not lose the ball left, if that makes some sense. And that's what Scotty does really well. And that's what I find I get from the slightly lighter shafts. I feel like it's not as hard work. The club doesn't get underneath me and behind me, and maybe get the club back out in front of me. And it kind of takes a left miss out of the way, which is a big plus for me. But then to be fair, on driver, this is the other thing. On driver, I like to do a little bit right to left. So being a little bit under it is not too bad for me. So I don't really operate very well with a really, really light driver shaft, but I play at about 60 grams, sometimes 70, but 60 gram driver, and that seems to fit really well. Then wedges, if you're going to get fitted for wedges, again, it depends a bit on your technique. if you play on Bermuda Sawgrass, or if you struggle a little bit with your strike on chipping, a real wide sole does help. It definitely helps you get by. If you're a good chipper, it doesn't matter what bounce you have or what kind of sole you have, because you're more likely going to be a bit more down onto it, down to the back of the ball and hitting those spinners. One of the main things is for bunkers. Test some different grinds for bunkers. That makes a real difference. And then moving on to putter. One of the things there's all sorts of putters, and there's the long putters, arm lock, counterbalance, mallet putters, blade putters, different style of blade putters. But one thing that is not really spoken about is smash factor on putters. So say you want to have 2 or 3 different putters just to keep it fresh and change it up. Now, you could have the same length and the same look, but say you want to have different looks on your putter just to keep it fresh, or different lines on the back or something like that. If you're going to have different putters, or if you're going to be changing putter, it's interesting to go and get tested for the smash. So what I mean by that is, how fast does the ball come off? So let's say your stroke, the club head was moving at 10 miles per hour. Some putters, the ball speed will come off really quick, and some of them will come off slower. It's important to get a putter that you know how fast it's going to come off, because your touch is so important when putting. So when you get fit for a putter, or if you're testing a putter, think about, it's easy to think about the look and the lines and all that sort of stuff, but try and get fit or get a feel for the ball that comes off at the same speed every single time. That will really, really help you move between putters, and that is something to get used to over the years to really build up your feel and touch and not have that massive variance. So, yeah, just a few little things to go through. Golf ball's another one. We'll get to that another time, but there's a few things just little key points really with your different bits of club fitting. So moving on to some questions that I've had on my socials just recently. I think it would be quite nice to get to. There's a couple of good ones here, actually, really good ones. So, what would lower scores quicker, fixing your swing or fixing your decision making? To be honest, fixing your decision making would be the answer to that one from my point of view. If you're really struggling with your swing, then that's clearly where the biggest improvement is going to come from, because you can strategize all you like, but if you're hitting the ball all over the place, it's going to make absolutely no difference. But let's say you're hitting it okay, so not very well, but you're not losing the ball on every single shot. If that's the case, then strategy is the biggest part. Now, the different sections here, you've got long game, short game, and putting strategy. So the long game strategy would be, generally, you want to be a little bit aggressive off the tee. Not reckless, just aggressive. So if you've got an opportunity to hit the ball a little bit further down the hole, then take it. Because it will just, as you get closer to the hole, the game gets a little bit easier. And you haven't got to be perfect. It's not got to be right in the fairway. It's just got to be in between the hazards, trees to trees, or hazard to hazard. So if you can be a little bit aggressive off the tee, not necessarily in your swing or in your move, but if you need to be a bit positive and get your driver out where possible, that would be the great. Then the next section would be approach play. Most of our approach play, myself included, we're not quite as good as we think we are. So, therefore, if you can go at the middle of the green, unless, let's say you've got less than 125 yards, you should be going in the middle of the green or toward the middle of the green. That's going to help. So a friend of mine, he did stats for the Ryder Cup of Glen Eagles, and for the European team, the winning European Cup team or European team. He also is looked after multiple major winners and world number ones. Interestingly, he worked with Darren Clarke before he won the Open at Royal St George's, and Darren's a notoriously aggressive golfer. Aggressive kind of personality and aggressive player. You know, if he's playing well, he would be going for it. And he was struggling leading up to the Open Championship, he was really struggling with his par 3 scoring. And my friend Chris, he had a chat with Darren and said, right, your par 3 scoring is not that great. You need to start going in the middle of the greens. Start, ignore the pin, find out what it is in the middle of the green, and just hit the middle of the green, regardless of where the pin is. And he did this for a few weeks up to, or a few tournaments up to the Open, and his par 3 scoring really, really improved. And, you know, did he win the Open because of his par 3s? Partly because he just played the numbers game. Got that thing in a position where he had a putt for a birdie or made the par really, really easy. So, and I think we can all take something from that. So be really aggressive from the tee where possible. Not aggressive swing, aggressive strategy. Into the greens, be a little bit more conservative than you think. I remember another story was Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka said that he had a round of golf in a major, and someone asked him what his strategy was, and he said, I went at 0 pins today. Brooks Koepka, in his pomp, in the midst of him winning his majors, one of the best players in the world, I think he got to world number 1, was saying he won a major going at 0 pins, which I think tells you everything, because you think when you play on your Saturday morning against your mates and you're taking on the pin on the 5th, the par 3 over water, and you've got a 5-iron in your hand, yeah, Brooks is going to the middle of the greens in majors. I'm going to include myself in this. I think we should all try that little bit of strategy, and I'm going to try that tomorrow. Nice little reminder. Then with short game strategy, again, be a bit conservative with your chipping, with your lob shots. The fact of the matter is that we're not Phil Mickelson or Seve Ballesteros, and there's times when you've got to take the double bogey out of play. Give yourself a par putt. If it means that you're pitching over a bunker, and let's say it's not a lot of green to work with, instead of playing the hero shot, trying to open it up out the rough, big massive swing, how about we just chip it over the bunker, open up a tiny bit, but if the thing runs on 10 feet by, you've got a 10 footer for par, no drama. If you miss it, you tap it in for bogey, move on. Knock it in, happy days. But what you're not going to do is hit it into the bunker, scull it, knife it over the back, make double, all that sort of stuff. So try and be a bit more conservative with the short game. And then with the putter, so this is the one with the putter, is you should be trying to hole every single putt. Small targets. Now, if you can differentiate your target, your goal, and your expectation, then that is a really good way to be able to putt better and lower some scores. So the reality is that, I mean, everyone talks about it. Oh, from 8 feet, you know, the tour players are 50%. You know, I think we all know that now. But it doesn't mean you're not trying to hole every putt from 8 feet. Absolutely trying to hole it. But it's just, if it doesn't go in, then you're not giving yourself a hard time that it doesn't. So you've got to be really small with your targets. I would say your strategy should be to generally die the ball by the hole. You haven't got to rocket it into the hole every single time. Work on your pace, because if you get the pace right each time, even though you get the line right, you're thereabouts. You're eliminating 3 putts. You're taking that down. So that is a strategy call, because it might mean on a big breaking putt, overread it a little bit. That just keeps it on the high side. Do you ever notice the way that if you have a big breaking putt, you don't play enough break, and it gets toward the hole and it rolls away and away and away and away, and then you get annoyed and you miss it coming back and you have the 3 putt. If in doubt, the strategy would be play a bit more break. Just keep it on the high side. If it falls in, then great. So yeah, that's where I go with that. If not, if your swing is in bits, go get a lesson. What's the next one? So why do golfers play worse on the course than they do on the range? I mean, that one is, it's relatable to everyone. And this is the stages. So no one's really happy with their golf swing. So then we sort out a coach, or try and diagnose ourselves and fix it ourselves, or we'll go into YouTube and some guy that we've never met and never going to meet talking about a random subject, we think that is going to the be all and end all, going to change our golfing life, and we do that. In that time, you become very conscious of what you're doing. So you don't know what you're doing, and then you become conscious of what you want to do. So that's that section. Then the next part is you're becoming competent at what you're trying to do. So but you're having to consciously do it. You have to think about doing it. So you start out, you don't know what you're doing. You have to start thinking about it. Then you know what you need to do. Then you have to consciously think about how to do it. And then the last section is you start doing what you want to do, and you not even have to think about it. So it's kind of 3 stages. And the second stage is what you're doing on the driving range. So you know what you need to do, and you're thinking about it and you're doing it. And it's under no pressure, fine, ball, I can do that. But like it or not, as soon as you get on the golf course, as soon as you get in a golf tournament, it just feels different. And that's because your mind is overthinking, and you're asking your conscious brain to get involved and perform small, minute movements in a second and a half golf swing that, unfortunately for us, we're not that good. So that's why you've got to practice really hard, lots of reps. That gets it to the point where you can do something without thinking about it. And that would be why you can't transfer. So the remedy I'd have for a practice would be to do it in thirds. So the first third, you do warm up and really think about your golf swing, maybe do some drills and some slow motion, not how you play, exaggeration drills, that's a bit of that third. The second third, you then go, right, I'm now going to hit some full shots, thinking about what I'm going to be doing, what move I'm trying to make, but I'm going to hit very much full shots. So not drills, not just a warm up. I'm going to hit full shots, thinking about the motion, trying to create the feel that I'm trying to get. And then the last third is going to get your brain into that competitive mode. So what you do is, let's say you set out a target of 150 yards and you set out 10 balls and you stand behind and then you walk in, and when you get over the shot, you have to hit the shot within 8 seconds. So you're not allowed to overthink. So you've got to get in there, get your club behind the ball, get your feet settled, get lined up, look at the target, and then go. And hitting those 10 balls, 20 balls, 30 balls, or your last third that way, just gets you in that, not letting your conscious brain switch on and getting your subconscious to take over, go into autopilot and perform, because that is the mode that you want to use on the golf course. So why do golfers play worse on the course than they do on the range? That is why, because the conscious mind is just not as good at golf as we want it to be. So, spoken quite a lot there. I think we've run over the 30 minutes. Hopefully there's some little gems in there that you can help you. I've got 2 more rounds of golf here in Florida, one on the Dye Valley course tomorrow, and then I'm back on the stadium course on Saturday, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Got my new shaft and the driver, got my strategy that I'm going to work, which is going to be a little bit aggressive off the tee, but not aggressive in the swing, aggressive in the strategy. So smooth swing, aggressive strategy. I'm going to be very conservative into the greens. I'm going to be smart with my chip choices, and I'm going to work on my touch for my putting. I will let you know how I get on next week. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy golfing over this weekend. And yes, thank you very, very, very much for listening. Until next time, bye for now.